The morning light streams through my bedroom window as I click the login button, heart pounding with anticipation. Today is my 18th birthday, and for the first time, I can access my college savings account without mom or dad hovering over my shoulder. 6 years of sacrifice about to pay off. 6 years of Friday nights spent serving greasy burgers to classmates celebrating without me. 6 years of maybe next time, when friends invited me anywhere that cost money. The page loads. I blink, thinking it's a mistake. I refresh the screen. $0.00. My fingers shake as I type the account number again, triple-checking every digit. The result remains the same. Nothing but emptiness where my future should be. That can't be right, I whisper to the screen. The wooden stairs creak under my feet as I make my slow descent. Each step feels heavier than the last, like walking through water. Through the kitchen doorway, I see them. Mom and Dad sitting at the table with untouched coffee mugs. Their postures are stiff, rehearsed. They've been waiting for me. The kitchen smells like cinnamon rolls, my birthday tradition. But the scent turns my stomach now. Dad clears his throat, not quite meeting my eyes. Madeline, we need to talk about your savings account. Mom's eyes are red-rimmed. Her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles shine white against her skin. What happened to my money? My voice sounds foreign to my own ears, too calm, too controlled for the storm building inside me. Dad shifts in his chair. Your brother needed a fresh start after rehab, with the baby coming and everything. We had to help him. Mom cuts in, a tear sliding down her cheek. Brandon needed a stable home for his new family. You gave him my college fund? The words taste like metal in my mouth. We used your savings to help with the down payment on Brandon's house. Dad confirms, his voice taking on that familiar tone he uses when he's decided something is non-negotiable. $14,000 goes a long way toward getting your brother back on his feet. A movement in the doorway catches my eye. Brandon leans against the frame, arms crossed over his chest. His smirk makes my blood run cold. Thanks for helping us out, sis, he says with a casual shrug. Real lifesaver. Memories flash through my mind. 16 years old, rushing from school to make my diner shift. The worn leather notebook Grandpa gave me where I tracked every penny earned. The pride in his eyes when I showed him my growing savings. The ritual of handing my paychecks to Mom and Dad each month, trusting them to keep my future safe. You have that scholarship, Mom says, wiping her tears with a tissue. You don't need this money like Brandon does. What about textbooks, rent, food? My voice rises despite my effort to stay composed. Dad waves his hand dismissively. You can get student loans like everyone else. Brandon has a child on the way. You're just going to college. Just going to college, the words echo in my head. Just the thing I've worked toward since I was 12. Family helps family when they're in need, Mom adds, reaching for my hand. I pull away before she can touch me. A strange calm settles over me. The betrayal is so complete, so absolute, that it crystallizes something inside me. I won't cry. I won't beg. I won't explain to them the value of what they've stolen. Was any of this money ever really mine? I ask quietly. Their silence is my answer. I turn without another word and climb back up the stairs to my bedroom. The posters on my walls and the books on my shelves suddenly look like they belong to someone else. A girl who believed her parents were on her side. From my closet, I pull out the large suitcase Grandma gave me for graduation. I pack methodically, clothes, toiletries, the few keepsakes that matter. My hands move with purpose while my mind races ahead. Campus housing doesn't open for 3 more weeks, but I know I can't stay here another night. I zip the suitcase closed with finality. Everything I've worked for has been taken by the very people who were supposed to protect me, supposed to teach me right from wrong. What would you do if everything you'd worked for was taken from you by the very people meant to protect you? Would you fight back or walk away? I choose option 3. I will rebuild without them. And I will never, ever forget this lesson. My dorm room measures exactly 12 feet by 9 feet. I know because I pasted off the day I arrived, 3 weeks early with nowhere else to go. The cinder block walls are institutional beige, but I've left them bare except for a single framed photograph of Grandma and Grandpa on graduation day. Their eyes follow me around the room, proud, expectant. I won't ask for a single penny. I whisper to their photograph each morning. A vow leaves my spine straight when doubt creeps in. The university library sits like a stone cathedral at the heart of campus, all marble columns and echoing halls. Mrs. Abernathy peers at me over reading glasses perched on her hawkish nose. You have no previous library experience, she states, reviewing my application. No, ma'am, but I've worked since I was 16. Never missed a shift. My hands stay perfectly still in my lap, though my future hangs in the balance. I learn systems quickly. She studies my face. The morning shift starts at 5 a.m. I'll be here at 4:45. 2 days later, I'm memorizing the Dewey Decimal System, while most students are still sleeping off welcome week parties. By midterms, my routine is military precise. Classes, library shifts, study hours blocked in 15-minute increments. No wasted time, no wasted dollars. I'm restocking periodicals when I spot them Brandon and a very pregnant Tiffany, strolling through the mall's center court. My brother's arm drapes casually around his girlfriend's shoulders as they pause before a display of $800 strollers. I duck behind a pillar, pulse hammering in my throat. This one matches the nursery perfectly, Tiffany squeals, running her fingers along the leather handle. Brandon laughs. Why not? The house my sister bought us should have a stroller to match. The periodical in my hands crumples before I realize I'm crushing it. The house my sister bought. Like it was a gift freely given instead of stolen outright. That night, a notification from Mom pops up on my muted Facebook page. She's tagged me in a photo album titled Nursery Makeover. With trembling fingers, I swipe through images of my childhood bedroom. The walls, once pale blue, now gleam sunshine yellow. My bookshelf has vanished, replaced by a white crib draped in a custom canopy. My chest tightens at the final photo, Mom and Dad beaming beside Brandon and Tiffany, champagne glasses raised in toast. The caption reads, "So grateful for our Madeline's generous heart. Family takes care of family. Proud parents." I close the app and block them all in one motion. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Patterson, my mother's oldest friend, stops me outside the campus coffee shop. Her eyes widen with recognition. Madeline, your mother tells everyone how you gave your college fund to help Brandon with his fresh start. She pats my arm. Such a selfless girl. Your parents raised you right. My smile feels carved from stone. How nice of them to say so. The holidays arrive with Mom's voice on my voicemail. Sweetheart, we miss you so much. Just call to let us know you're okay. I call exactly once on Christmas Eve. The conversation lasts 7 minutes. Yes, classes are fine. No, I don't need anything. Yes, the dorm is comfortable. No, I can't make it home, too much work. We thought maybe you could contribute to the family gift exchange this year, Dad suggests. Nothing big, just token presents. I'm afraid that's not in my budget, I reply. Voice pleasant as pond ice. Give everyone my love. I spend Christmas Day with my roommate Julia and her boisterous Italian family, who ask no questions when I show up with a small suitcase and eyes that blink too rapidly. Professor Winters notices me staying late after economic theory lectures, working through extra problems. You have a remarkable aptitude for financial systems, she comments one evening, pausing by my desk. Thank you. I've had practice. She becomes the first person I tell my story to, over coffee in her cluttered office. The next week, she introduces me to Dr. Sandoval, the scholarship coordinator. There's a mid-year grant for students demonstrating exceptional financial need and academic merit, Dr. Sandoval explains, sliding a form across his desk. The application deadline is tomorrow. Lucky Professor Winters mentioned you today. Luck had nothing to do with it. The elderly landlady of the off-campus house where I find a tiny room seems to see straight through me. Mrs. Chen peers at my rental application, tapping her cane thoughtfully. Full-time student with 2 jobs? When do you sleep, girl? Whenever necessary, I answer honestly. She nods once. Rent's $300, but I'll make it $225 if you shovel the walk in winter and help me with groceries. My arthritis makes carrying bags a misery. I move in that weekend. My first library paycheck feels sacred in my hands. At the credit union just off campus, I open an account in my name only. No parents as co-signers, no shared access. Would you like to set up a savings account as well? The banker asks. Yes. I push $40 across the counter, exactly 20% of my earnings. This goes into emergency savings. Every paycheck. 18 months later, that account holds $2,412.78. Not enough for a crisis, but enough that I sleep without dreaming of empty bank accounts. My phone buzzes with Mom's monthly check-in call. Brandon has totaled his second car. The baby needs special formula insurance won't cover. Dad's hours got cut at work. I listen politely, offer sympathy, and never once reach for my wallet. My refrigerator holds exactly what I need for the week, no more, no less. My clothes are clean, if not fashionable. My textbooks are purchased, used, or borrowed from the library's reserve section. I never owe anyone anything. Meanwhile, Brandon posts photos of his new gaming system, then asks relatives to contribute to a GoFundMe for Tiffany's car repairs. Some nights, lying on my narrow bed beneath Mrs. Chen's handmade quilt, I wonder if rebuilding from scratch has changed me too fundamentally, made me too hard, too careful. But then I look at my bank statement with its steady growth, at my perfect GPA, at the small circle of friends who know my true worth, and I recognize something my family never taught me. Independence, once earned, is too precious to surrender. My phone buzzes across the library desk, interrupting the perfect silence of finals week. I ignore it. The economics textbook in front of me demands my full attention. Professor Larson's exam is legendary for its complexity, and I need this A to maintain my scholarship. The phone buzzes again, and again. I flip it over, ready to silence it completely, when I see Mom's name flashing across the screen. She hasn't called in months, not since I declined their Thanksgiving invitation. My stomach tightens as I answer. Madeline? Her voice breaks on the second syllable of my name. Oh God, Madeline. What's wrong? I step outside the library, winter air stinging my face. It's Brandon and Tiffany. She's crying so hard I can barely make out her words. They're gone, and they left. They left. Left what? The old familiar dread rises in my chest. More money needed? Another rehab center? Luca, she finally manages. They left Luca on our doorstep with a note. Your brother and Tiffany just drove off. They left their baby with us. 3-year-old Luca. My nephew, whom I've only seen in the handful of Facebook photos Mom still tags me in. The innocent child who sleeps in what was once my bedroom, in the house my money helped buy. I'll be there in 2 hours, I hear myself say, already calculating how many finals I'll need to reschedule. The toys scattered across the living room floor are the first thing I notice. Plastic trucks and stuffed animals create an obstacle course in a space that once showcased Mom's decorative pillows and Dad's sports memorabilia. The house smells different to peanut butter and apple juice instead of Mom's potpourri. Dad stands in the kitchen doorway, coffee mug clutched in his hand. 2 years have carved deep lines around his eyes and mouth. His shoulders stoop forward as if carrying an invisible weight. Madeline, he says, my name sounding strange in his mouth after so long. Mom appears behind him, hair hastily pulled back, eyes puffy and rimmed with red. Thank God you're here, she whispers, moving toward me as if to hug me, then stopping short when I shift my weight backward. A small voice calls from the living room. Gamma? Juice? I step around my parents and see him for the first time in person. Dark curls like Brandon's, but Tiffany's blue eyes. Luca sits on the floor in dinosaur pajamas, little fingers working to stack blocks that keep toppling over. He looks up at me, unafraid of this stranger in his grandparents' house. "Hi," he says simply. "Hi, Luca," I reply, my voice softening without my permission. "I'm your Aunt Madeline." They never really got clean. Dad's confession comes after Luca has finally fallen asleep on the couch, thumb tucked in his mouth. "We thought the house would give them stability, but we've been helping them financially," Mom adds, not meeting my eyes. "Paying their utilities when they couldn't. Buying groceries." "You mean when they spent their money on drugs instead?" I say, the words flat and hard. Mom flinches but doesn't deny it. She pulls a crumpled note from her pocket and hands it to me. Tiffany's looping handwriting sprawls across the page. "We can't do this anymore. Luca deserves better. Tell Madeline she was right about everything. She should raise him. She's the only one who has her life together. Don't try to find us." The note trembles in my hand. "You knew," I say, looking between them. "You knew all along Brandon hadn't changed, and you kept giving them money anyway." "He's our son," Dad says, as if that explains everything. I walk to the window, watching snow begin to fall outside. "And I'm your daughter. That didn't stop you from taking everything I worked for." The silence that follows is heavy with unspoken guilt. "It would just be temporary," Mom says over breakfast the next morning, her voice carefully casual. "Until we figure something out." "What would be temporary?" I ask, though I already know. "You moving back home." She stirs her coffee, not looking up. "Family responsibility comes first, especially with a child involved." Dad clears his throat. "You could transfer to the community college, or take a semester off. Luca needs family right now." I watch Luca across the table, happily smashing banana into his mouth. None of this is his fault. He's just a child abandoned by parents who couldn't overcome their demons. "What your grandparents would expect," Mom adds softly, playing her strongest card. "They always taught us that blood is thicker than water." My scholarship, my carefully planned course schedule, the library job that pays my rent, the life I've built from nothing after they left me with nothing. All of it sacrificed for Brandon's mistakes. Again. That night, Luca wakes crying from a nightmare. I reach him before my parents, lifting his small body from the makeshift bed on the couch. "Mama," he whimpers, his tears soaking into my shoulder. "Shh, you're safe," I whisper, rocking him gently. "I've got you." He falls back asleep against me, his breathing deep and even. I stand by the window, watching the streetlights illuminate falling snow, and think about the economics final I'm missing tomorrow morning. I love this child, this blameless boy who shares my blood but not my wounds. But I also love the future I've fought for, the independence that cost me everything to gain. Dawn breaks across the snow-covered yard as clarity settles over me like a blanket. I know exactly what I need to do. I've made a decision. I announce the next morning, my voice steady as I place my coffee mug on the table. My parents look up, hope in their eyes that quickly fades as they register my expression. I won't be moving back home or dropping out of school. I meet their gaze directly. That wouldn't solve anything. It would just create a new cycle of resentment. "But Luca," Mom begins, "needs stability and proper care." I finish for her, which is why I've researched the appropriate legal channels. Child Protective Services can help establish temporary guardianship while ensuring Luca's needs are met. Dad's face darkens. "You're calling the authorities on your own family?" "I'm ensuring my nephew gets the support he deserves." I pull out my phone. "You can apply to be his legal guardians. I'll provide whatever character references you need. I'll visit regularly and help financially when I can, but I won't sacrifice my future because Brandon and Tiffany couldn't face theirs." Mom begins to cry, but I see something in Dad's eyes, a reluctant respect perhaps. I dial the number I researched last night, while Luca slept in my arms. "This is the right thing to do," I say, as much to myself as to them. For all of us. The manila folder in my hands contains everything I've gathered about our situation. Bank statements, employment records, medical reports. I've labeled each section with color code tabs. Preparation has always been my shield. This is impressive. Miss Vargas, the CPS caseworker, flips through the pages, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. We sit in her cramped office surrounded by filing cabinets and framed credentials. The scent of burnt coffee lingers in the air. Luca needs stability, I say, keeping my voice level despite the tightness in my chest. My parents can provide that with proper support. I've outlined what I can realistically offer: weekend visits, emergency backup care, contribution to a proper savings account for his future education. Miss Vargas studies my face. And your education? Won't be interrupted. My knuckles whiten around my coffee cup. I've worked too hard to abandon it now. She nods, understanding in her eyes. Many people in your position would drop everything. That wouldn't serve anyone in the long run. The words taste like truth and guilt mixed together. Dad's voice booms through my cell phone speaker as I walk across campus. You're breaking up this family. Your mother hasn't stopped crying since your meeting with that woman. I dodge a student on a skateboard, tucking the phone closer to my ear. I'm trying to make sure Luca gets what he needs without sacrificing everything I've worked for. Family comes first, Madeline. Always. The hypocrisy stings like winter air against bare skin. Like when you put Brandon first, or was that different? His silence says everything. That night, Mom leaves 3 tearful voicemails. The next day, Aunt Carol texts that I should be ashamed. Uncle Rick calls to remind me that family sticks together. None of them mention the money that was taken from me. Through my apartment window, I watch a cardinal land on a snow-covered branch. Red against white, so vivid it hurts my eyes. I let the calls go to voicemail. Mrs. Hernandez, my high school counselor, signs her name with a flourish on the statement of support. I've known this family for years, she says, sliding the paper across her desk. Your parents mean well, but they've always had blind spots where Brandon is concerned. Thank you, my voice catches. Her hand covers mine briefly. You're doing the right thing, setting clear boundaries. Some people only respect what they can't walk over. The university dean grants me flexibility for assignments during this crisis. My roommate's father, a family law attorney, reviews the guardianship paperwork pro bono. My library supervisor rearranges my schedule to accommodate court dates. A network forms around me, people who see my worth without demanding I set myself on fire to keep others warm. Mom spreads bank statements across their kitchen table. The sight of this room still triggers the memory of my birthday betrayal, but I push it away. We have more urgent matters. Without Brandon's house payment, we can just make ends meet, she says, circles under her eyes testifying to sleepless nights. But there's nothing extra for Luca's daycare. You could rent the house, I suggest, pointing to local rental rates I've researched. That income would cover childcare and start building a fund for his future needs. Dad's shoulders slump, defeat etched in the new lines around his mouth. We never thought we'd be raising another child at our age. Yet, here we are. I keep my tone businesslike as I outline a budget. This isn't about what any of us planned, it's about what Luca needs now. As reality sinks in, the atmosphere shifts. My parents begin looking at me not as their daughter to be directed, but as an adult with valuable insight. The power balance tilts, almost imperceptibly at first, then unmistakably. Twilight paints the backyard in blues and purples. Dad joins me on the porch steps where I sit watching Luca chase fireflies. For several minutes, we share the silence. We failed both of our children, he finally says, the admission visibly painful. Brandon with too much protection, you with too little. The words unlock something in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. Your intentions weren't bad. Intentions don't matter much in the end, do they? He rubs his palms on his knees. Results do. Mom appears in the doorway, her face tear-streaked but calm. We enabled Brandon for years, gave him everything, fixed every mess. Her voice breaks. Look where that got him. Look where it got us all. Luca runs to me, tiny hands full of grass and dandelion fluff. I lift him on my lap, his weight solid and warm. You can start doing better now, I tell them, with Luca. In my nephew's innocent eyes, I see a chance for my parents to learn what true support means, not erasing consequences or sacrificing one person for another, but building foundations strong enough to weather life's storms. For the first time, I see respect in their eyes when they look at me, not just as someone who will clean up family messes, but as someone whose wisdom they need. Some lessons come at terrible cost. The trick making sure you only have to pay for them once. The front door slams against the wall. Brandon stands in the doorway, his silhouette blocking the afternoon sun. 6 months of absence haven't improved him. His cheeks are hollowed, eyes darting like a cornered animal's conition. Where's my son? His voice carries the familiar rasp of someone who still smokes too much. Dad rises from his armchair, remote control forgotten in his hand. Mom freezes mid-step from the kitchen, dish towel clutched against her chest. Luca, thankfully, is now upstairs. I step between my brother and my parents, arms loose at my sides. He's sleeping. Brandon shoves past me into the living room. Pack his stuff. We're leaving. No, you're not. The steadiness surprises even me. He whirls, nostrils flaring. He's my kid. A kid you abandoned on the doorstep with nothing but a note. I glance at my parents, expecting them to undermine me, as they always have. Instead, Dad moves to stand beside me. Mom follows, her spine straighter than I've seen in years. Brandon's eyes widen slightly at our united front. He hadn't expected this. You can't just disappear for half a year and waltz back in, Dad says, voice rough with emotion. That's not how this works anymore. Brandon paces like he used to before his teenage explosions. I needed time to get my head straight. I'm back now. Problem solved. I open my messenger bag and pull out a folder. 6 months of careful documentation spread across the coffee table, bank statements, court records, photographs of the squalid conditions Luca was living in before he was abandoned, the pathetic note left with him. Let me walk you through what your time to get your head straight cost this family. I point to each document methodically. $3,000 to resolve the unpaid utility bills at your house. $1,700 for back child support Tiffany claimed you never paid. $4,000 in legal fees to establish temporary guardianship. Brandon's face reddens. I didn't ask for any of that. You never do ask, you just take. I tap a photograph of Luca from his first week here underweight, shadows beneath his eyes. This is what your son looked like when he arrived. He had 2 outfits that fit. No toys, no books. Mom steps forward. You didn't even leave his favorite blanket, Brandon. My brother's jaw works silently. He tries another angle. Remember when we built that treehouse and Dad got so mad because we used his good saw? His laugh sounds forced. You were always covering for me, Maddie. What happened to you? I grew up. You always thought you were better than everyone else. I fold my hands in my lap. Not better, just responsible for my own choices. The words land like a physical blow. He stares at me, really seeing me for perhaps the first time. I'm not the pushover little sister anymore. 3 years ago, you took my entire future. My voice doesn't waver. $14,000 I earned serving burgers to people who treated me like dirt. Money that was supposed to be for my education. Dad winces visibly. Mom's eyes fill with tears. We're sorry, Madeline, Dad says, the apology I never thought I'd hear. We should never have given your money away. Brandon's gaze darts between us, sensing the shift. So that's it? You're choosing her for your own son? This isn't about choosing sides, Mom says. It's about what's best for Luca. Dad squares his shoulders. If you want to be part of Luca's life, there are conditions. Regular visitation, not whenever you feel like showing up. Drug tests, a steady job, a suitable living arrangement, and therapist appointments, Mom adds, her voice firmer than I've ever heard it. You need help, Brandon. Real help, not just promises. My brother's face contorts. You can't keep my kid from me. I have rights. Rights you abandoned on the doorstep, I remind him. The court date is next Wednesday. The judge will decide Luca's permanent guardianship. You're welcome to make your case then. The fight drains from him suddenly, replaced by the manipulative charm I know too well. Come on, Maddie. We're family. You know how much that little guy means to me. I do know, I say quietly. That's exactly why I'm standing here. The family court is smaller than I imagined, wood-paneled and smelling faintly of lemon polish. Luca sits with a court-appointed advocate in a waiting room with toy trucks and picture books. When the judge calls me to testify, I speak clearly about my parents' devotion to their grandson through preschool research, the pediatrician visits, the nightlight shaped like a dinosaur because Luca fears the dark. I describe my own role as the aunt who reads Saturday morning stories and helps with bath time when I visit. And your relationship with the child's father? The judge peers over reading glasses. He's my brother. I want him to be part of Luca's life when he's healthy enough to be a positive presence. Brandon stares at the table throughout my testimony. When the judge grants my parents primary guardianship with supervised visitation rights for Brandon, he doesn't protest. Outside the courtroom, my brother catches my arm. You think you won, don't you? This wasn't about winning. I gently remove his hand. It was about Luca having stability. He shakes his head. You'll never forgive me for taking your money. I study his face, the same jawline as mine, the same stubborn set to his mouth. Forgiveness isn't something you're owed, Brandon. It's something you earn. He walks away without responding. I watch him go, wondering if some betrayals leave permanent scars, whether acknowledged or not. Is forgiveness possible without an apology? When someone betrays your trust but never truly acknowledges it, can you move forward? I'd love to hear from those who face this difficult choice. The spring breeze carries the scent of fresh-cut grass across the university quad as I adjust my cap. 2 years of night classes, weekend study sessions, and careful budgeting have led to this moment. Aunt Maddie, look at me! Luca's voice cuts through the murmur of the crowd. He waves frantically from his perch on Dad's shoulders, his tie already loosened and crooked. I scan the sea of faces until I spot them. Mom clutching flowers, Dad beaming with Luca bouncing above him. Their eyes hold something I haven't seen in years. Genuine pride that isn't tangled with expectation. The dean reads my name. Madeline Blake, Bachelor of Education, summa cum laude. My fingers tremble slightly as I accept my diploma. I've done this on my own terms. Later, at the small Italian restaurant off campus, Luca smashes his spaghetti with methodical determination, while Mom watches him with the vigilance of someone who's learned hard lessons about attention. We have something for you, Dad says, sliding an envelope across the checkered tablecloth. My guard rises automatically. Old habits die hard, but when I open it, I find a card with a key taped inside. What's this? The house sold last month, Mom explains. We put half in a trust for Luca's education, with you as co-trustee. Her eyes meet mine, acknowledging the significance. The other half is yours. The gesture doesn't erase the past, but it acknowledges it. That's enough for now. Sunday dinners become our ritual. I arrive at 5, help with cooking, and leave by 8. My apartment 20 minutes away is small but entirely mine, close enough for Luca but far enough to breathe. Can I show Aunt Maddie my bank book? Luca asks one Sunday, breadcrumbs clinging to his chin. Mom nods. Go get it from the desk. They ask me about investments now, Dad says quietly once Luca scampers off. Figure you're the only one who's proven they know what to do with money. The words matter more than the late acknowledgement. Brandon appears occasionally like a storm that never quite makes landfall. His supervised visits with Luca happen at the community center, and I make myself scarce those days. His sobriety comes and goes like seasons, but my boundaries stand firm as stone walls. I can forgive without becoming vulnerable again. Quarters are worth 25 cents. I explain to Luca at the kitchen table, arranging coins in neat rows. How many make $1? His small fingers push 4 quarters together. 4! That's right. And where does money go when we want to save it? He points to the blue ceramic piggy bank we painted together last month. In Mr. Oink. Mom watches from the doorway, something unspoken passing between us. She sees me teaching him what they should have taught me. Will you help me count my money, Aunt Maddie? Luca asks, his innocent question bridging past and future. Always. I promise. My new office at the university still smells of fresh paint. Assistant Professor Blake, says the nameplate. The window overlooks the same quad where I received my diploma. On my desk sits a framed photo of Luca flanked by Mom, Dad, and me at his 6th birthday. Beside it stands a mason jar labeled House Fund in my precise handwriting, containing the first installment of my savings. I run my fingers over the smooth glass, remembering the leather notebook Grandpa gave me and all the lessons since. Family isn't about blind sacrifice, it's about helping each other grow in the right direction. We're learning together, one Sunday dinner at a time. I stand alone on the uneven cobblestones, the afternoon sun warming my back as Brad's rental car disappears around the corner of a whitewashed building. The laughter of his college friends trails behind like exhaust fumes, hanging in the air long after the tires stop squealing. My phone weighs heavy in my palm. My wedding ring catches the light, throwing golden reflections against the ancient stone wall beside me. A local woman passes, basket of bread tucked under her arm. Her eyes meet mine with that unmistakable look pity. She knows what I don't want to admit. I've been abandoned in a foreign country by my husband of 10 years. 30 minutes ago, we sat at a seaside restaurant overlooking the Atlantic. White tablecloths snapped in the breeze while Brad held court, on his 5th drink before the entrees arrived. His college roommates hung on every exaggerated story, their faces flushed with alcohol and admiration. Remember when Miller convinced that bouncer he was the governor's son? One friend slapped the table, rattling the silverware. The man actually apologized. Brad leaned back, basking in their approval. I watched his glass empty again, ice clinking against crystal, and reached across the table to touch his wrist. Maybe slow down? We have that coastal drive later, I said quietly, careful to keep my voice light. The cliffs along the route were treacherous enough without alcohol clouding his judgment. The table fell silent. Brad's smile hardened at the edges. This, he said, pulling his arm away, is why nobody wanted you on this trip. His friends shifted in their seats. One coughed into his napkin while another suddenly found the menu fascinating. I felt heat crawl at my neck. I'm just concerned about... Brad pushed back from the table, chair legs scraping against stone. Keys. He snapped his fingers at the friend to his right, who fished in his pocket and tossed them over. Brad caught them one-handed and dropped them in front of another friend. You drive. Palmer wants to see that lighthouse anyway. What about Claire? Someone asked, voice low. Brad looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time all afternoon. His blue eyes were cold, assessing. Something shuddered behind them. A decision made. Find your own way back, he said flatly. Maybe walk, you could use it. I reached for my purse, instinct kicking in before my brain caught up. My fingers froze midair. Brad had my wallet. For safety, he'd insisted this morning. Small towns, pickpockets, women make easy targets. His hand now rested on the leather billfold in his pocket. They all stood at once, a wall of pressed linen shirts and expensive sunglasses. Brad tossed euros onto the table, more than enough for the bill. A show of generosity for the staff, a reminder of my dependence for me. As they filed past, no one met my eyes. The restaurant owner watched from the doorway, his weathered face revealing nothing. But his gentle nod in my direction spoke volumes. He'd seen this before. Tourist marriages breaking apart on vacation, leaving debris scattered across his beautiful coastline. By midnight, I sit on the edge of a twin bed in a modest guest house. The mattress sags beneath me, springs protesting. Moonlight spills through thin curtains as I count out my emergency cash for the 3rd time. 125 euros exactly. The crisp bills were sewn into the lining of my suitcase after my college roommate was robbed in Italy. For emergencies, I'd thought then. Not for when my husband becomes the thief. My 10th call rolls to voicemail. Brad's cheerful greeting cuts off with a beep. I hang up without leaving another message. My phone pings with an incoming text, and my heart jumps with foolish hope. Brad, cool off. Maybe now you'll learn not to embarrass me. I type and delete 5 responses before setting the phone down. When I pick it back up, I discover he's blocked me on Instagram, then Facebook. Then my email bounces back. This wasn't impulsive. He planned this lesson. The ceiling fan turns lazy circles above me. Tomorrow, I'll figure out how to get home. Tonight, I let the tears come. Dawn breaks over unfamiliar rooftops. Terracotta tiles glow copper in the early light. I've slept perhaps 2 hours, but clarity has arrived with the sun. I compose an email to my college friend Melissa, too ashamed to explain fully. Unexpected change of plans in Portugal. Might need a little help. Will call when I can. I take inventory of what remains. Passport tucked in my bra, phone at 15% battery, wedding earrings Brad gave me on our first anniversary. The pearl drops were an investment, he'd said. Today they might become one in ways he never intended. The pawnshop owner examines the earrings through a jeweler's loupe, his expression carefully neutral. His assessment of their worth is matched only by his assessment of me, a foreign woman, alone, desperate. Would I crawl back as Brad expected? Or was this the moment Claire Miller finally disappeared? The bus terminal smells of diesel and desperation. I scan the routes displayed on a cracked monitor, my vision sharper than it's been in days. Lisbon, Madrid, Barcelona. Each name a possibility. Each destination a choice Brad doesn't control. My finger traces the route to Galicia, not closer to home, farther away. The ticket clerk raises an eyebrow when I push euros across the counter. Solo? He asks. I nod, the word feeling true in more ways than one. A payphone stands in the corner, its plastic shells scratched with graffiti. I feed it coins and dial Brad's number from memory. After 4 rings, his voicemail answers. Brad, it's me. I steady my voice, crafting a lie with surgical precision. I'm coming back. I found a way to get a car service. We'll talk tonight. I hang up before truth can betray me. The overnight bus to Spain grumbles to life at midnight. As we cross the border, I twist my wedding ring from my finger, the indentation in my skin a pale shadow. I drop the gold band into the deepest pocket of my bag, burying the weight of 10 years beneath a packet of tissues and half a granola bar. Noon sun hammers the back of my neck as I stumble from the bus station. My mouth tastes like cotton, stomach cramping from too little food and too much fear. The driver called this place Santiago de Compostela, but it might as well be Mars. I clutch my dwindling euros, each bill representing fewer hours of survival. Green hills roll into the distance, dotted with stone buildings. A vineyard appears on the horizon, rows of vines marching up a hillside like soldiers. My vision blurs. I blink, but the world tilts sideways. 1 foot before the other. Just keep moving. The gravel road cuts my shoes. Chicago flats weren't made for country miles. When my legs finally buckle, I fall among the vines, face pressed against earth still cool beneath its surface. The soil smells sweet and alive. In sickness and in health. Brad's voice floats through memory, champagne glass raised beneath twinkling lights. Our wedding day, his blue eyes promising forever. The irony tastes bitter as copper. When sickness came, it wasn't my body that failed, but our vows. Now strangers might find me where my husband ended me. Darkness pulls me under. Voices drift through consciousness, speaking words I don't understand. Rough hands gentle despite their strength lift me from the ground. A man's weathered face swims into focus, deep lines around his eyes creasing with concern. Beside him, a woman with silver-streaked hair tied back in a practical knot presses a water bottle to my lips. Agua, she says, the word penetrating my fog. The farmhouse kitchen gleams with copper pots and smells of garlic and wine. They settle me at a wooden table that bears a century of knife marks. The woman Rosa, I will learn, wraps a blanket around my shoulders while the man Joaquin pours wine into a simple glass. American, he asks, the word heavily accented. I nod, tears springing without permission. Rosa shoos him back with rapid Spanish, then takes my hands in hers. Her skin feels like well-loved leather, creased and strong. No shared language, but she understands. She brings bread, cheese, more water. When fever claims me again, she leads me to a narrow bed with sheets that smell of sunshine. El ni dejó sin nada, I murmur in clumsy Spanish gleaned from a phrase book, as she places a cool cloth on my forehead. He left me with nothing. Rosa's eyes narrow, ancient fury flickering behind them. Then softening, she pats my hand, nodding slowly. Mi casa, tu casa. First kindness in days. I sleep for 14 hours. Rosa's computer wheezes like an asthmatic cat. The monitor, ancient and bulky, casts blue light across her sewing room. My fingers tremble as I type my banking password. The screen loads, numbers appearing like a blow to the chest. 0.00. Joint savings emptied. Checking account drained. Credit cards maxed and frozen. My email inbox overflows with unread messages. One from Brad to my parents catches my eye. Subject line, concerned about Claire. I click it open, breath stuck in my lungs. Mom and Dad, I'm worried about Claire's latest episode. She wandered off during our Portugal trip and refuses to come back to the hotel. I've arranged for a car service, but she's being difficult. You know how she gets when she's not taking her medication properly. Rage burns cold and clean. I never had episodes. Never needed medication. The careful fiction stuns me with its craftsmanship. How long has he been laying this groundwork? I scroll further, finding messages between Brad and his college friends from 3 days before our trip. She needs a lesson about embarrassing me in public. Portugal's perfect, she doesn't speak the language, doesn't know anyone. You sure about this, man? Seems extreme. Trust me, 2 days max before she's begging to come back. She's nothing without me. The screen blurs through tears. Not tears of heartbreak, tears of recognition. I've been disappearing for years, piece by piece, while he slowly convinced me it was normal. Dawn breaks over the vineyard in streaks of pink and gold. I stand in Joaquin's shadow, watching his hands demonstrate proper pruning technique. The vines need shaping, he explains through gestures, pointing out which branches must go for the plant to thrive. My palms blister by noon. Rosa clucks disapprovingly, wrapping them in homemade salve. But the next morning, I'm back among the rows before breakfast. Working feels like prayer, mindless, healing, productive. In the kitchen, Rosa stations me beside her, knife in hand. She taps vegetables from their garden, demonstrating cuts, onions, peppers, tomatoes. The rhythms of feeding oneself not from restaurants or delivery apps, but earth and effort. At night, I stare at hands once manicured for charity galas and client meetings. Dirt traces the lines of my palms like fortune teller's ink. Calluses form where designer pens once rested. These hands look capable of building something, not just decorating what already exists. Would you recognize freedom if it looked like starting over? The mirror doesn't lie, but sometimes it surprises. 2 months in Spain has transformed me in ways no expensive Chicago salon ever could. My fingertips trace the unfamiliar planes of my face, a skin bronzed by the Spanish sun, freckles scattered across my nose and cheekbones like constellations. The designer clothes hang loose now, my body reshaped by physical labor rather than Pilates classes. My reflection blinks back at me. Who is this woman with calloused hands and sun-streaked hair? Without the careful makeup, without the clothes Brad selected, without the constant monitoring of my appearance through his eyes, I'm someone else entirely. Or perhaps, for the first time, actually myself. I pull a faded cotton shirt over my head and step out into the vineyard morning. The sun crests the eastern hills, painting everything gold. Joaquin is already among the vines, his weathered hands moving with practiced precision. When he sees me, he nods, a simple acknowledgement that needs no words. Last night, I slept without dreaming of Chicago. The realization hits me only now, standing in the cool morning air. 8 straight hours without seeing our lakeside apartment, without hearing Brad's voice, without feeling the familiar weight of that life pressing down on me. I breathe deeply, filling my lungs with the earthy scent of the vineyard. Ven aquí, Clara. Rosa waves from the stone outbuilding where wine has been made the same way for generations. My name sounds different in her, softer, warmer. Inside, wooden vats tower above us. The fermentation room smells of fruit and thyme. Rosa demonstrates the process again, her movements efficient from decades of practice. I watch her hands, these hands that have never known manicures but know exactly how to coax perfect wine from imperfect fruit. Ahora too, she says, stepping back. My turn. I plunge my arms into the crushed grapes, the juice cool against my skin. This isn't the sterile, controlled environment of modern winemaking. This is ancient, tactile, intimate. Rosa nods approval as I follow her methods. Today, I am learning to create something real. They want to know about the fermenting process. I've stepped forward without thinking. The small group of American tourists look surprised they didn't expect an English-speaking guide at this remote Spanish vineyard. But their relief is palpable as I translate Joaquin's explanation, adding details I've learned these past months. We use natural fermentation, I tell them, my voice steadier than I expect. No commercial yeasts. The process takes longer but preserves flavors unique to this hillside, this soil. The tourists nod, snapping photos. A man in a crisp white shirt peels away from the group when the others follow Joaquin to the next station. He introduces himself as Miguel, owner of a restaurant in the nearby coastal town. Your Spanish vineyards, they struggle to reach new markets, he says, handing me his card. But your wine? Very good, very, how you say, authentic. I would like 10 bottles for my restaurant. Before I can call Joaquin, the restaurant owner names a price low, barely covering costs. 2 months ago, I wouldn't have recognized this. Now I see it clearly. For such quality, the price is €15 per bottle, I counter, keeping my voice pleasant but firm. For 10 bottles, perhaps 14. His eyebrows rise, but his eyes show respect. We settle on €13.50, and he promises to return next week. When I hand the euros to Joaquin, explaining the arrangement, his surprise is evident. You made good price, he says in his limited English. Better than distributor. That night, I place the money in an empty olive jar, labeled with a strip of masking tape. Claire's future. The coins click against glass with a sound like possibility. The vineyard office resembles an archaeological dig. Decades of papers fill wooden cabinets, ledgers record transactions in faded ink, and an ancient computer sits dormant in the corner. May I? I ask Rosa, gesturing to the chaos. When she nods, I begin. Hours turn to days as I sort, organize, and modernize. The computer wheezes to life after I clean years of dust from its innards. I create simple spreadsheets tracking inventory, sales, costs. My phone, finally charged and functional, becomes a camera to photograph bottles against the vineyard backdrop. What is this? Joaquin asks when I show him the Instagram account I've created. Viñedo Segunda Oportunidad, Second Chance Vineyard. Marketing, I explain, showing him the likes already accumulating. People see, people buy. Within weeks, 3 more restaurants contact us directly. The dusty ledgers show the old distributor took almost 40%. Now that money stays here, with Rosa and Joaquin, with us. Mi hija se fue. Rosa says one evening as we shell peas at the kitchen table, my daughter left. Between my broken Spanish and translation apps, the story emerges. Rosa's daughter left for Canada years ago, abandoning the vineyard for city life. The pain in Rosa's eyes mirrors what I've seen in my own. I find myself telling her everything. About Brad's public humiliation. About the abandoned wife on Portuguese streets. About the emptied accounts and calculated cruelty. I decorated houses, I admit, the translation app struggling with my nuance. Beautiful spaces for other people, but I never built a home. Rosa reaches across the table, her fingers wrapping around mine. She understands loss in ways my Chicago friends never could. Later, as we transfer wine to bottles, I knock over a crate. Glass shatters. Red wine spreads across stone like spilled blood. I freeze, waiting for anger that doesn't come. Instead, Rosa laughs a full-bodied sound that bounces off the cellar walls. Vino per la tierra, she says. Wine for the earth. The absurdity hits me and suddenly I'm laughing too. Real laughter that bubbles up from someplace long sealed shut. We stand in puddles of wasted wine, surrounded by broken glass, howling until tears stream down our faces. It's the first time I've genuinely laughed since Portugal. 4 months after my collapse among these vines, Joaquin arrives with a thin man carrying a leather briefcase. He introduces Alberto as abogado lawyer. They spread papers across the kitchen table. The documents are entirely in Spanish, legal terms I can't decipher. I concentrate, catching familiar words, but the meaning eludes me. No entiendo, I confess. I don't understand. Alberto speaks careful English. Señor Joaquin and Señora Rosa wish to make you partner, 25% of vineyard business. I stare at them, certain I've misunderstood. Why? Joaquin gestures around us. You fix office, make new customers, bring young ideas. But the vineyard belongs in your family, I protest. Rosa takes my hand, squeezing gently. Her eyes are kind but serious. Familia elige a cada uno. Her words are slow, making sure I understand. Family chooses each other. My throat tightens. I sign where Alberto indicates, my new signature looking strange against the formal Spanish text. That night, as crickets sing outside my window, my phone pings. A notification from an email account I haven't checked in weeks. The subject line freezes the blood in my veins. I know where you are. From Brad Miller. I read Brad's email a third time, my fingers tight around my coffee mug as Spanish sunlight warms the vineyard porch. The words swim before my eyes, glowing cold from the ancient computer screen. The private investigator was expensive but worth it. My stomach knots. 4 months of safety uttered by a single message. I'll be there Thursday. Time to bring you home where you belong. Thursday. 3 days from now. The trembling begins in my hands, coffee rippling in concentric circles. I set the mug down before it spills. My hard-won calm fractures as memories flood back his cold eyes in that Portuguese restaurant, the car disappearing around the whitewashed corner, the pawn shop owner's calculating gaze. Quien te amenaza? Joaquin appears beside me, his weathered face creased with concern. Who threatens you? I turn the screen toward him. Mi esposo, viene aquí. My husband, he's coming here. The lawyer's office smells of leather and old paper. Señor Vasquez slides documents across his desk papers in dual columns of Spanish and English. Divorce papers. The word alone would have terrified me 6 months ago. Now it feels like drawing a boundary line across my life, before and after Portugal. We document everything, he explains in careful English. The abandonment, the emptied accounts. He taps sections of text with a blunt finger. Very strong case. I remove my thumb drive from my pocket. The evidence is here. Text messages planning the lesson. Emails to my parents claiming I was unstable. My voice doesn't waver now. And this, I slide the vineyard partnership agreement across his desk. Proof I've established a new life. Rosa waits outside, arms folded across her chest. When we return to the farmhouse, she leads me to her bedroom and opens the cedar wardrobe. Her fingers move decisively through the hanging clothes. No, she says, pushing aside a colorful dress I'd admired last week. No bonita. Fuerte. Not pretty. Strong. She selects simple piece-tailored pants, a crisp white shirt, low leather boots, practical, not decorative, armor, not attraction. I catch her rough hand in mine. Gracias. The village hums with the news by afternoon. I explain the situation to Father Mateo on the stone bench outside the church. The mountains stretched purple and blue beyond us. His silver eyebrows draw together as my broken Spanish conveys enough. "He will come to take you?" he asks. "He will try," I answer. By evening, Marco from the restaurant finds me among the vines. "You bring him to me," he insists, chest puffed forward like a rooster. "My place. Many people. Very safe." He makes a sweeping gesture encompassing the village. We are watching for him. Javier, who drives the regional bus, nods firmly when I pass him in the square. "Un americano en traje caro?" I see him first. I tell everyone. Their protectiveness wraps around me like a blanket on a cold night. Dawn breaks pink across the eastern hills. I sit cross-legged between rows of grapevines, breathing in the earth's mineral scent. The vines are stubborn survivors, growing where little else will, turning poor soil into something valuable. I've come to understand them in ways Chicago Claire never would have imagined. I rehearse my words without heat. "I won't be returning with you." Not I can't or I shouldn't. Simple fact. The divorce papers require only your signature. Not an apology or explanation. Rosa finds me there, the rising sun painting her face gold and copper. She turns me toward the farmhouse, her hands gentle on my shoulders. In the kitchen, she settles me in a chair and sections my hair with practiced fingers. "Mi madre hizo esto," she explains as she braids my hair tight against my scalp in the local style. My mother did this. Each twist feels like another layer of protection. I retrieve my wedding ring from the bottom of my suitcase, unwrapping it from the tissue paper where it's rested these months. The gold catches the light as I place it on the kitchen table, a small circle that once defined my entire world. Later, as the sun descends toward afternoon, I burn the last photograph of our wedding day in the fire pit behind the farmhouse. The flame licks at our smiling faces, curling the paper's edges until Brad's perfectly tailored tuxedo blackens and disappears. The phone rings as I button the white shirt Rosa chose. Joaquin answers, his voice a low rumble from the front room. He appears in my doorway, eyes somber. "Ha llegado," he says simply. He has arrived. I expected my hands to shake, but they move with surprising steadiness over the buttons. I check my reflection. One woman Brad wouldn't recognize stares back. My sun-browned face holds none of the careful makeup he preferred. My hair, braided tight, reveals features no longer soft with compliance. We walk together through the village, Rosa and Joaquin flanking me like an honor guard. The vineyard stretches behind us, rows of green against golden earth. My back straightens with each step toward Marco's restaurant. At the worn wooden door, I pause. Rosa squeezes my hand once, then steps back. Joaquin nods toward the entrance. "Estamos aquí." We are here. I push the door open. The man I once built my life around looks suddenly smaller than I remembered. Brad stands in the doorway, a slash of American affluence against the rustic backdrop. His tailored linen pants and crisp blue button-down look absurd here, like he's dressed for a yacht club meeting but wandered into a farm supply store. His cologne, same sandalwood scent I once bought him for Christmas, collides with the earthy aroma of wine barrels and fresh bread. "Baby," he says, that familiar smile spreading across his face, the one that charmed bank managers and my parents alike. This little adventure has gone far enough. I say nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. 4 months ago, I would have rushed to fill it to soothe the tension. Now I understand the power of waiting. The restaurant hums with quiet activity. Old men nursing afternoon drinks pause mid-sip. Women pretend to discuss recipes while watching from the corner. My audience. My witnesses. Brad crosses the room, confidence in each step. He pulls out the chair across from me, the legs scraping against terracotta tiles. His hand reaches for mine on the table. I slide the divorce papers toward him instead. Antonio appears at Brad's shoulder, setting a glass of garnet wine before me. Nothing for Brad. My husband's eyes flick to the server, then back to the papers. the smile faltering at the edges. Your parents are worried sick about you, he says, pushing the papers aside without looking at them. They think you've had some kind of breakdown. I take a measured sip of wine. The taste of blackberries and oak grounds me to this moment, to this place where I've found my footing. I've had to put my career on hold searching for you. His voice drops, intimate, as if sharing a confidence. Clients asking questions. Partners wondering if I'm stable enough to handle their portfolios when I can't even keep track of my wife. When I still don't respond, his fingers drum once, twice on the wooden table. You know this little vineyard won't survive a lawsuit, he says, voice hardening. Operating without proper permits, hiring an undocumented American worker. He leans forward. I have excellent attorneys, Claire. I remember how these threats once paralyzed me, how his displeasure felt like standing on a frozen lake hearing the first crack beneath my feet. Remember Paris? His voice softens again, reaching for nostalgia like another tool from his belt. Our anniversary at that little hotel with the view of Notre Dame? We can go back next month, start over. My silence has become a wall he cannot scale. I reach for my phone, unlock it with a finger swipe, and slide it across the table. The screen shows the group chat between Brad and his college friends from 2 days before our Portugal trip. Brad, thinking it's time to teach the wife a lesson she won't forget. Miller, the Portugal plan still on? Brad, absolutely. She's been impossible lately. Talking about her design career again. Time she remembers who makes the real money. His face drains of color as he scrolls, seeing the screenshots I've collected. Our joint bank accounts emptied 3 days after he left me. The email to my parents claiming I was having another episode. The pawn receipt for my wedding earrings that bought me 3 nights in a hostel before I found the bus to Spain. You left me with 125 euros. I say, my voice steady, thinking I'd crawl back. His head snaps up at the sound of my voice. I gesture toward the window where the vineyard stretches across the hillside, rows of vines catching the afternoon light. I'm not the woman you abandoned in Portugal. Brad's expression shifts, calculation replacing shock. What about our history? 10 years together, Claire. You're throwing away a decade over one bad day? The sun slants through the window, warming my shoulders. The same sun that watched me collapse among the vines, that witnessed my rebirth as I learned to prune and tend and harvest. That saw me build something from nothing while he believed I was broken. I survived because you left me, I say, not despite it. His mouth opens, then closes. For perhaps the first time in our relationship, Brad Miller has no words. Joaquin appears in the doorway, his weathered face impassive. He doesn't speak English, but his years of farming have taught him to read storms in the air. El camino a Madrid es largo, he says quietly. Deberías salir antes del anochecer. Brad looks between us, uncomprehending. The road to Madrid is long, I translate. You should leave before nightfall. Understanding dawns on Brad's face not just of the words, but of their meaning. He has lost control completely. His gaze falls to the divorce papers. With quick, angry movements, he signs each flagged page without reading them. No argument, no negotiation. The fight has left him. I remove my wedding ring, the one I carried in my bag since Spain, a talisman of a different life, and place it on the table with a soft click against wood. We stand. Joaquin holds the door as Brad walks out ahead of me. Through the window, I watch him pause on the cobblestones, adjusting his expensive watch, straightening his shoulders like armor against what he can't understand. I step outside into the golden Spanish afternoon, Rosa joining us from where she waited across the street. Together, the 3 of us walk toward the vineyard, my chosen family flanking me on either side. Behind us, Brad stands alone on the uneven stones of a foreign village, watching us grow smaller with each step. Watching me disappear for the second time, but now on my terms. I adjust the final bottle of Albarino in the rustic wooden display, angling the label to catch afternoon light streaming through the barn's open doors. 6 months of hard work culminates in this Momentor Vineyard's first official tasting event. The converted barn buzzes with voices speaking Spanish, English, and the universal language of appreciation. Perfect, I whisper, stepping back to survey my handiwork. The space bridges my past and present. Chicago-trained eyes guided the transformation of this once empty storage barn into an elegant tasting room. But my hands, now calloused and strong, helped sand the reclaimed wood tables and hang the wrought iron light fixtures. Wine barrels serve as both functional displays and design elements. Wildflowers from the hillside fill hand-thrown pottery vases, their blues and yellows echoing the vineyard's new logo. Rosa appears beside me, her weathered hand squeezing mine. Claire, she calls out to the gathering crowd of local restaurant owners and curious tourists. Mi hija, my daughter. The Spanish words no longer need translation in my mind. She makes our old vines young again. My chest tightens with sudden emotion as Rosa leads me toward the main entrance where Joaquin unveils our new sign. Hand-carved wood announces Viñedo Segunda Oportunidad, with my name carved beneath theirs. Second Chance Vineyard. My second chance. That evening, after our successful launch, I sink into the chair at my cottage desk and open my laptop. An email from Mark Donovan, my former design mentor in Chicago, sits prominently in my inbox. Claire, I've been trying to track you down. Lopez Hospitality is developing eco-lodges across North America and needs a consultant with your sustainable design background. 6-month contract, remote work possible. Interested? I smile at the timing as my fingers hover over the keyboard. 6 months ago, this offer would have felt like rescue. Tonight, it feels like integration. I'd love to contribute, but I'm based in Spain now. I attach photos of the barn renovation and our in-progress plans for the stone cottage conversions. The pictures show whitewashed walls, exposed beams, and terraces overlooking rolling vineyard hills. My design background and current work blend perfectly for this project. Let's discuss how I can contribute remotely, with occasional travel as needed. The next morning, sunlight warms the community center's worn wooden floors as 12 local women arrange chairs in a semicircle. I organize handout simple business plans, marketing calendars, and budget templates I've translated into Spanish. Buenos dias. I begin, my accent still American, but my confidence growing. Today we discuss business fundamentals. The translator beside me repeats my words, but I continue with the phrases I've practiced for days. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's valuation. I say, watching understanding dawn across faces that have become familiar over months of market days and church services. I hand out business cards I designed last week. They display both addresses Mi Cottage in Galicia and my parents' home in Chicago, a physical representation of my expanding life rather than the diminished one Brad predicted when he drove away. The doorbell chimes that afternoon as I prune vines on the south slope. Joaquin signs for a package and brings it to me, American postage, my parents' handwriting. Inside, letters penned in my mother's distinctive script offer apologies for believing Brad's version of events, for not searching harder, for momentarily forgetting the daughter they raised. We're sorry we failed you, my mother writes. We understand if you need more time. Beneath the letters lie photographs my 5th birthday with cake-smeared face, high school graduation, my first design award. The past I'd nearly abandoned in my flight forward. That night, I carefully arranged these images on my cottage wall, alongside pressed vine leaves and sketches of the vineyard. Not separate lives, but a continuous journey. At sunset, I climb the hillside path that winds above the vineyard. Below, lights flicker on in the tasting room for evening visitors, glowing like earthbound stars against the darkening landscape. My phone vibrates in my Pocketa new email notification. Request for consultation. Hotel Maritimo, Algeciras, Portugal, seeks design services for sustainable renovation. The coastal town where Brad abandoned me now reaches out for my expertise. I trace the outline of the vineyard with my eyes, feeling the poetic symmetry. My thumbs move across the screen, composing my response. Available for consultation. My rate is €150, hour plus travel expenses, portfolio and references attached. The breeze carries the scent of ripening grapes as I press send.